Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. As goods increase, so do those who consume them. And what benefit are they to the owners, except to feast their eyes on them? The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat little or much. But as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep. I have seen a grievous evil under the sun, wealth hoarded to the harm of its owners, or wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when they have children, there's nothing left for them to inherit. Everyone comes naked from their mother's womb, and as everyone comes, so they depart. They take nothing from their toil that they can carry in their hands. This too is a grievous evil. As everyone comes, so they depart. And what do they gain, since they toil for the wind? All their days they eat in darkness, with great frustration, affliction, and anger. This is what I have observed to be good, and that is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them. For this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions and the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift of God. They seldom reflect on the days of their life because God keeps them occupied with gladness of heart. This is the word of the Lord.
Well, if you're new or visiting, as I said before, my name's John. I'm the pastor here at Penshurst, and we've just been reflecting on this book, this ancient piece of literature, Ecclesiastes, trying to reflect about what is life like in this world. And today we're going to look at that passage on wealth. You can start off anywhere as you talk about wealth, but probably good to start here. This idea that money can't buy happiness. Money can't buy happiness. You've heard that phrase before. Others have suggested other alternatives. There's one here. Her name's Gertrude Stein. She's an American author. She says, well, they just don't know where to shop. Money can buy happiness. They just got to find the right place to buy. Another American author wrote this. Money can't buy happiness, but it can make you awfully comfortable while you're being miserable. I think the reality is we all live long enough to recognize that money isn't everything, but it can be helpful. It can be helpful. It has its limits, but it can be kind of nice. You know, having a bad day, do a bit of online retail therapy, that's pretty good. Maybe going through a difficult season in your life, have a bit of money, you go on a holiday, nice resort, that can make life a little bit better. And so we're reflecting on this idea of, well, where is the role? What is the role of money in our lives today? In the first parable that we heard read out, there is a man that approaches Jesus and he says, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Sounds like there's a bit of a family argument and they're trying to split up the inheritance. And he's saying, "Give me my fair share." I was doing a bit of research this week, and people were writing about arguments that they've had in their family, and someone was saying that they always, when you have to buy a stocking stuffer for Christmas, everyone gets a small gift for everyone, and this guy bought a scratchy for everyone in his extended family, like a $5 scratchy. I don't know what a scratchy is. It's one of those lotto things where you buy it and you scratch it off and see if you want a prize. And it's kind of one of those things where it's always like, oh, what can I win? And no one ever wins anything. But everyone's kind of excited about the potential of winning something. Anyway, this man bought a scratchy for all his extended family, and his cousin won the jackpot. He won $70,000 in this scratchy, right? And then this guy was really excited for his cousin. He was a young student, so he got to pay off a lot of debt. And then, about half an hour later, he got a text from his wife, who was at the party. She was outside the car and says, "Come talk to me." The wife was not happy that this cousin won. They said, "It should be our money," and said, "You need to take that scratchy back." And he wouldn't take it back, and so they drove home very sad. Bit of a family argument. But you end up in these moments where people sort of are just grasping for more. It's this idea that, like, if I have more, then maybe life will be a bit better. I'll get the life I want. If I have money, then I'll be happy, right? My son will be able to get the video console game he wants, or maybe for some of us a bit more older that we don't play video games anymore, we can go buy that luxurious, exotic holiday that we've been dreaming of, or maybe we can build our dream house. Or maybe if I had the money, then I'd have the freedom to kind of quit my job and do what I want. Travel the world, buy a farm in the middle of nowhere and just chill out, or if you don't like farms and too many flies, beachside house. Or maybe if you had money, you'd have a deep sense of security. I once had a friend who was an investment banker, had a lot of money, and I said, well, why don't you retire? And he goes, well, the more money I have, the more money I can have in case something goes wrong. Whatever medical emergency can come up, I'll have the money to be able to deal with it. And so he kept working, not just because he wanted stuff, but just in case. See, for many of us, we want money for different kinds of reasons: freedom, security, happiness. And we think that if we have that, then we'll get what we want. You might have heard of Jane Park. I've talked about her before. She's here on the screen. At the age of 17, she was the youngest woman ever to win Euro Millions Lotto. She won over $2 million a number of years ago, so it was quite a lot of money. And she had the best life. She went on holidays, bought a house, and went on luxury shopping sprees. And after all that, she said this: I thought it would make life 10 times better, but it's made it 10 times worse. I wish I had no money most days. She continues, people look at me and think, I wish I had her lifestyle, I wish I had her money. I have material things, but apart from that, my life is empty. What is my purpose in life? She kind of maybe had all the things that we thought we would want, and yet didn't feel a sense of satisfaction. She's actually so upset with the lotto company that she's trying to sue the lotto company. She says, I understand they can't make winning sound awful, but they have a responsibility not to mislead the public. That's her opinion about the lotto company that she won. This idea that we think that if we have money, wealth, we'll get what we want. But the question is that true? Is that true? That passage from Ecclesiastes we just read out points out a number of reasons why it's probably not true that wealth or money can buy happiness. If you have a Bible or maybe your order of service, you can look there at that passage in Ecclesiastes. We're going to look just at a few verses or a few sentences from there. The first is verse 10. It tells us that money will often make us dissatisfied. The sage or the writer of it says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This wise man suggests that kind of having money, it's kind of like being on a hamster wheel. You're always running, you're always craving for more, and you never feel like you have enough. A psychology professor at the University of Western Australia said the reality is there is no amounts that would make us 100% certain that we're definitely going to be secure. And so psychologically, we're always craving and longing for more. My first job was a paper boy. I think I got paid $4.57, which is probably below average wage now. But when we start off humble. You start off at McDonald's or a paper guy, and you're just happy with hot chips at the end of the day. Or maybe to go watch the movies. Back then it was $10. But then you get a job after uni, and you upgrade your hot chips for a nice cafe. You go just from a simple regular movie to IMAX or gold class. But then things happen. You get a promotion, you get a pay rise, you get a new role at work. And so every time you're upgrading, you stay in a tent when you're younger, but then you go to a motel, and then a motel is no longer good enough. You go for a resort, all you can eat. You start off with the IKEA sofa, but then that is no longer good enough. You upgrade to the luxury leather couch. Whatever you do, you're constantly never satisfied. You're constantly feeling like you want more. And that's what this kind of wise man says. It never feels like you've arrived. However much you have, you're constantly longing for more. You know this experience. And so you're never satisfied. This wise man also says, so often you're anxious. Look there at verse 12. He says, the sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat little or much. But as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep. The rich people, well, they should sleep better. If you think about it, the more money you have, the more choices that you can make in life, the more options you have. And so you can figure out what to do when you want to do it. But if you don't have money, you don't have any choices. But he says it's the opposite way around. It's the rich people that find themselves anxious. A couple of months ago, I was blessed enough, my family got to buy a new car. However, that didn't come with anxiety. Anxiety from friends who said, you got to make sure you keep your car clean and you don't scratch it and wash it in a certain way. Became even more anxious when my wife convinced us to buy the white interior as opposed to a dark one, and we have small kids. And so now not only am I anxious about keeping the outside clean and protected, but the inside as well. And so I spent time watching on YouTube, how do I keep it clean? How do I wash it properly? I should have just bought a second-hand Toyota Corolla. They're fine, but I wouldn't have bothered about washing it or cleaning it. Just let it sit outside. The more you have, the more anxious you can become. The more you have, you're kind of wondering, how do I protect it? How do I make sure I don't get scammed? How do I make good decisions about it so I don't lose it? I got a quote from Jack Henderson, who's a real estate entrepreneur, very successful in the last few years. He says this: every decision feels like it has the potential to change lives. Not just mine, but my team's, my clients, my families. The pressure is relentless. The fear of making the wrong move, of disappointing people, of losing it all, that pressure and fear grows with every zero you add to your income. We think that if we have wealth, then everything will be good. But as this wise man says, you can find yourself kind of dissatisfied, but also really anxious. He also says you find yourself so often disappointed. Verse 14, talking about wealth lost through some misfortune, so that when you have children, there's nothing left for them to inherit. The idea for some is that the more I have, I don't need to spend it on myself. I can leave it for my kids. This wise man says money can easily be lost. And Wallace just talked about the stock market not doing so well. It could be even worse. It could be a financial crash. Online identity theft or getting scammed. It might be a natural disaster that your insurance policy doesn't cover. Remember my new car? Not so new anymore. Some of you know this. I had an accident. My new car is banged up. You see the wheel's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to have more tire. All that effort of cleaning it properly, of making sure it was well protected, could not stop someone else hitting me. That was just a reminder to me that the things that we value and cherish can so easily be taken away. And that's what this wise man says. We better take the photo down. It's going to give me trauma. Wealth can just disappoint. Wealth can be so close we can have it and then we can lose it. Verse 17, this is what the wise man says. All their days they eat in darkness with great frustration, affliction, and anger. This wise man gives us this image of darkness, of being kind of really unfulfilled. It's like going out to eat and then coming home and you're still hungry. He says that's kind of what wealth is like. You think it's going to satisfy. You think it's going to bring you all that you've longed for, and yet when you have it and you spend it, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. That first story, that parable that Jesus tells that we read out earlier, it was about this man who had a farm and had much. And he says, the more I have, the happier I will be. So I'm going to build bigger barns, and the more I can store, then I can eat, drink, and be merry. Life will be good. But before he could find happiness and enjoy all that he had planned for, his life was taken from him. Death can ruin it all. And that's what the wise man of Ecclesiastes says. If you look there in verse 15, we skipped ahead, but look there at verse 15, he says, everyone comes naked from their mother's womb, and as everyone comes, so they depart. They take nothing from their toil that they can carry in their hands. And death, an untimely death, can make it all seem pointless. You work so hard, you plan to retire and enjoy, and then maybe something happens, and you don't get to enjoy all that you had been planning for. This rich man thought that wealth was all that there was about life. But the Bible offers a different perspective. Look there at verse 18. This is what I have observed to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, to find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them, for this is their lot. See, the Bible's vision of wealth is not that it's evil and you should you should avoid it, but it's something that is good and enjoy it, but not to make it everything. See, the parable that Jesus told, this story, was told as a warning. You who pursue and make everything about wealth, watch out, because you'll crave for something that doesn't satisfy. Jesus was redirecting people away from the thing that they thought would be good and great. And he was directing them and pointing them towards God, the one that truly satisfies. In many ways, the parable was to serve as a warning. Do you know who Will Smith is? Will Smith was, well, in this picture, he was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air a long time ago. He's an actor, comedian for some people. And he says this, but what happens is you just realize none of it can make you happy. Once you bought everything you want and there's literally nothing on earth else that you want to buy, I just wish that was a gift that everybody could have, because there's nothing that material can do to satisfy you. So he's essentially saying, I want you to have unlimited funds and buy everything you've ever wanted, and to never get to a point where you're like, I wish I had enough money to buy just a little bit more, because that was him. And he's at that point and he says, I don't want anything else, and yet I'm still not happy. I see, Jesus challenges us to recognize that the world is not enough. He says provocatively, what good is it for someone to gain the world yet forfeit their soul? You might feel like you have everything, but at the end of the day, you pause and you think and you go, well, this is still not enough. Because the reality is, the things of this world do not truly satisfy. This wise man, a few chapters earlier from Ecclesiastes 5, said, God has placed eternity in the heart of man. He's suggesting that the things that you crave are good and fine. Happiness, security, contentment, they're great. But they ultimately cannot be found in this world. These longings can only be met when you find yourself knowing the God that created this world. And so when Jesus was walking this earth, he said, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. He redirects people away from the things of this world to himself, because he knows that in relationship with him, we find ourselves knowing someone that provides all that we need. So we don't need to be anxious about how much we have or don't have. We find ourselves content because God provides everything. In relationship with Jesus, we find ourselves no longer needing to stockpile wealth to protect us, because we know a God that provides for all that we need, that protects us and leads us and gives us wisdom to navigate life in this world. Ultimately, Jesus promises not just to be here with us to provide and to protect, but as we heard in the catechism before, he provides to be with us forever. The Easter story, if you're not familiar with it, is that Jesus lived, died, and rose again from the dead. He didn't stay dead. And in the resurrection of him coming back to life, we see the promise that he offers all those that might know him. Resurrection life, eternal life, forever. And it's forever that we find ourselves satisfied. You might be here this morning and you're still trying to make sense of whether really wealth is enough. My hope for you is that we've kind of said enough that you'll be open to investigate. Is it possible that the world is not enough and that Jesus is? You'll hear last week we heard Vile talk about her story and how she was part of an Alpha course. An Alpha course is a course that talks a bit about what it means to understand the basics of the Christian faith. And we would love for you to be a part of that, to come and have your questions answered, to wrestle with the thoughts that you have about Christianity and whether it's true or whether it really makes sense. If you're here today and you're wondering, is it possible that there is more to life than what I have, then can I invite you to come and join? Talk to your friend or talk to me. I would love for you to learn a bit more about that. You might be here this morning, and maybe as you think about all this, you're like, yeah, I do think that wealth is something that plays a significant part of my life. It's something that I crave for, I grasp, and it just doesn't satisfy. And if that's you this morning, can I encourage you, like you do in a relationship, to turn back away from the things that you to long for and crave, and turn back to God, to find yourself in repentance. Sorry, God, for pursuing the gifts that you have given me and losing sight of the one that gives them. Please lead me to trust in you, that you are enough. Regardless of who you are here today, I think there is an application for all of us to recognize that Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." I'm going to pray now that God would help us do that.